Well, behind me is the catamaran that sails from Split in Croatia over to the island of Brac. It goes to the port of Bol, which is where my hotel is for the next 7 nights. In case you think I'm about to miss the boat, don't worry, I've come the day before to take the introduction film. This boat sails every day, just one a day, one sailing a day. I think it's all year round, weather permitting. So I'll see you on board. Well, today's the day I actually sail across to Bol on the island of Brac. You'll see that the ferry that's in the background there, which when I came down a couple of days ago I thought that was the ferry that I was about to catch, but in fact that's an earlier ferry and it goes to one of the other Croatian islands, Hvar. The one I'm going on is the one in the next berth, which is this one, and this will be sailing in a couple of hours from now, so let's hope I get on the right one. And just to add a little bit to that, don't be late, these things sail right to the minute, right to the second nearly. This one's on its way out now already. Jadrolinija is a Croatian ferry company that connects most of the Croatian islands to the mainland by regular and car ferry services along the Croatian coast. The company also runs several international routes between Croatia and Italy. It is a state-owned company and therefore subsidised by the state budget. My ferry from Split to Bol was just 40 kuna, about £5, and took about 50 minutes to an hour. The company has a fleet of 57 vessels, including large vessels, plus 45 smaller ferries, conventional ships, catamarans and hydrofoils, serving local routes along the Croatian coast. The port at Split is also large enough to accommodate the cruise liners. The catamarans are efficient and comfortable and travel at speed. In no time we were approaching the island of Brac. We're just approaching the town of Bol, which is to be my destination for the next 7 days. The mountain range on Brac is the highest on all of the Croatian islands. This is where my hotel is, at the end of that small jetty. A day after arriving, I got the opportunity to video the same catamaran making the same entrance into the compact harbour. The main reason I chose the Hotel Castile in Bol is because the catamaran, which we can see in the background, is the one that I came on from Split. So it was a case of straight off the boat and walk around the harbour and straight to the hotel, no transfers. So it's a logical thing to do, isn't it? The boat stays long enough to drop off its passengers, who at this time of year are mainly commuters travelling to and from work on the mainland, plus a few tourists. It also picks up the island hoppers who are making their way to Jelsa on the island of Hvar, a short 20-minute journey. The island of Hvar and the port of Jelsa can just about be seen through the rain clouds in the distance. The bronze statues towards the end of the jetty there are meant to represent 2 fishermen pulling in their nets. You can see why I chose this hotel, as this is the terrace overlooking the compact harbour of Bol, with views across to the other islands. This is classed as a 3-star hotel, and this terrace is for breakfast and drinks. This is just the first week of May and not very busy. The Hotel Castile is in the part of Bol that is closed off to traffic, except for a few scooters and delivery vehicles. Each room also has a sea view. Also belonging to the hotel is the cocktail bar Veradero and the terrace pizzeria and Topolino restaurant with live music. All the recreational and cultural offers of Bol are in the immediate vicinity of the hotel. The island of Brac is one of the most beautiful and popular islands in the Adriatic, separated from the mainland and the city of Split by the Brac Channel. Because it is an island, virtually all goods and commodities are delivered by boat, either to the port of Bol or to another port, Supetar, on the other side of the island. The Church of Our Lady of Carmel, set in Arbourside Square, was built in several stages and started in 1668 and is styled as a Baroque church. It was enlarged at the end of the 18th century. Above the profile door there is the angel with Veronica's veil, which, judging by its style, probably originates from the previous church that stood on the same site. Although only mid-May now, I couldn't find the reason for tonight's music display, other than that the Bol Summer Festival runs from June until late September each year, and so this may just have been the prelude or rehearsal. The Croatian people love their summer festivals, with art exhibitions, food events and dancers and musicians from around the country performing in churches and open spaces. wandering around having a couple of beers, and this is what's happening on in the background. Pure spontaneous. Oh, well, I don't know about spontaneous, but reasonably organised. Not advertised. Seems to be what the Croatians like. They love having the music in the streets. Absolutely love it. Much quieter now the following morning, outside the same church, with lovely views through the square out to the harbour, with lots of places to eat around the same harbour. You don't need a car here, everything is close at hand, within walking distance. The harbour is quite compact, and all the buildings that surround it are made from local white stone. Fortunately, plaques have been erected to tell you what these buildings are all about. The plaque says the palace with Renaissance, Baroque features on the southern and eastern facade is decorated with luxurious balconies on which are depicted symbols of the sun and crests of the nobility, while on the door is a Latin inscription from 1694. Next to the palace is the loggia, built in 1884 and now a tourist shop. Next to that is the Gothic summer residence, decorated with 2 single lancet windows and now used as the Ball Tourist Information Office. Ideally placed next to the sea and at the entrance to the ferry passenger service. On top of this tourist information building is the live webcam, the views of which can be found on the internet for live streaming. This is more or less the same view you can see live streaming on YouTube. I'm standing just above the loggia next to the church of St Anthony, formerly St Bernardine, and built at the beginning of the 16th century. The pocket-sized bell tower is equally as picturesque as the main body of the building. The interior can only be described as minimalistic, which adds to the overall charm of the building. Opposite the small church of St Anthony is the Moby Dick restaurant and bar. The outside seating area looked to be very inviting, with commanding views over the harbour, and decided to come back here later in the evening for a meal. I can imagine this place to be very popular during the peak tourist season, and only a short walk from my hotel. I thought the food was good, but not as good as the view. I had read some of the reviews on the TripAdvisor website, and as these varied considerably, I was a little sceptical, and so I played safe and ordered a pizza and a beer. It was a lovely warm evening, and the view was the main reason I am here. A walk through the harbour are some idyllic small beaches towards the Dominican monastery. Clean, clear water and the small pebble beach provided a wonderful photo opportunity. A tiny cafe on one side with just a couple of outside tables. Not many people here today, and I just sat down on a stone step and totally absorbed the view. The monastery was founded in 1475 in a location chosen for the Dominicans by the inhabitants of Bol. Aside from the museum within the monastery, there is also a library with rare books and manuscripts. The cemetery opposite the monastery came into existence in 1828 because of a ban on burials within churches. The small church of St Ivan and Theodore is the oldest church in Bol and dates back to the 9th and 10th century. It was built on the remnants of a building dated back to late antiquity in the 6th century, a section of which with frescoes and water cistern is located at the base of the church. The small church of St Ivan and Theodore, the Dominican monastery and the cemetery are all built on the small peninsula Glavica in the 15th century on the site of the episcopal bishop's palace mentioned in 1184. So this is my first walk from the hotel at Bol, and I'm walking to the most famous beach in the whole of Croatia, which is Slatni Rat. It's somewhere in the background here, maybe another 5 minutes walk or so. I just love this place. The smell of pine from the pine needles, pine trees, occasional whiff from the jasmine plants. Probably hear the little motorboat going past at the moment. The islands, the rest of the islands, not that far in the distance. You could jump on a boat, you can hire a boat. The thing with the Croatian islands is that they're fairly close together, unlike the Greek islands, which are quite a way apart. But this is beautiful, this is hot, but I'm getting the shade from the trees. Most people walk or hire a bike, but I believe it's only a 5-10 minute walk down to the beach. This coastal walk is absolutely stunning, and the shade from the large pine trees is very welcoming. The tourist season is just beginning, with the setting up of beach bars and water sports facilities. Slatni Rat beach is in the distance. As I get further away from the centre of Bol, there are a series of large hotels on this stretch of coastline, some luxury residential properties and restaurants, all commanding fabulous sea views. This one is the Slatni Rat Beach Resort Hotel, which also has a restaurant and bar, which is open to the public. In the middle of this is the small church of St Peter and Paul, one of the oldest churches on Bol. It was first mentioned in the year 1720. Slatni Rat means Golden Cape and has been preserved in the category of protected landscape since 1965.
The protected area spreads over 12.3 hectares. This 400 metre long cape is made up of pebbles that torrents have brought. It is shaped as a tongue and well projected into the sea.
Okay, so now I'm about as far as you can walk out towards the sea, towards the point at the Pakleni beach. As you can see, not that busy. It is only midday, middle of May. Tourists haven't all arrived, but the weather is absolutely superb. It's a fantastic location, and as I say, one of the most popular beaches in the whole of Croatia. I believe it gets absolutely packed in the summer months, but today is just pleasant. Really nice day.
The tip of the cape constantly changes its shape and directions depending on the sea currents. In some cases the tip completely shifts to one side and joins the shoreline, resulting in a formation of a small lake in the middle. Due to its originality and beauty, Golden Cape is one of the most famous symbols of Croatian tourism. This is as far as I walked, just a couple of 100 metres past the cape to a more rugged coastline before heading back to the centre of Bol and to my hotel. Having taken time to contemplate my journey along the coastline, I was reminded of the time that this town was once a fisherman's village and how it has transformed itself into a magical holiday destination. It has perfect warm weather with almost continual breezes and crystal clear water, all in an incredibly clean environment. Cleaners must appear only at night because I ever hardly saw one, and the narrow streets, harbour, market, walkways and beach are kept spotless. So today is the day that I continue my island hopping adventure and make my way by boat to the island and town of the same name, Hvar. And this is the boat in Bol Harbour that's going to transport me there. Hvar is the fourth largest of Croatia's islands at 182 square miles, and Hvar town in particular is increasingly obtaining a reputation as something of an upmarket destination. It's also favoured as a destination by the rich and famous who sail into town on their amazing yachts. Hvar is an ancient city with a rich history and reputedly the greatest number of sunny days. It faces the sunny south side of the island with the same name. In the city you can visit various historical monuments, including the Fortica Fortress, the Hvar Cathedral, City Theatre and the Franciscan Monastery. The city is the centre of the island's tourism and is one of the most preferred and most visited destinations on the entire Adriatic. St Stephen's Cathedral provides a grand backdrop to the main square, built in the 16th and 17th centuries at the height of the Dalmatian Renaissance, to replace a cathedral destroyed by the Turks. The building's most distinctive feature is its tall rectangular bell tower. The square is the largest in Dalmatia. Note the number of window openings decreases with each floor. Just off the main square are the old town streets, narrow with lots of steps, cafes and shops.
Built on top of remains of an old Roman settlement.
Well, I've just climbed hundreds of stone steps just to get this particular view. Without the steps, I guess I wouldn't get the view. But this is Hvar, and Hvar town, again one of the Croatian islands. I was in Bol on the island of Brac. Got a ferry this morning and come over here. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. Well worth the climb, and I'm going to go around the rest of the town and see what other panoramic shots I can get. Looking up in front of me there's a even higher climb, and this takes me up to the castle. I'm just not quite sure I'm going to make it.
Once above the old town streets, the climb is through a herb garden and sheltered path, and is not so steep. The islands in the distance beyond Hvar town are known as Pakleni Islands, a gorgeous chain of wooded isles with crystal clear waters, hidden beaches and deserted lagoons. Although the name is often translated as Hell's Islands, its meaning is thought to derive from paklena, a pine resin that was once harvested here to waterproof boats.
Well, I did make it to the castle. I eventually got to the top. Never again. Some climb, some massive, massive climb, but the view absolutely stunning. Well worth it just for the view. And when I say never again, that's because this is probably only the one and only time I'll be coming here. When I say never again, I don't mean because it was that difficult to climb. It's probably the one and only time I'll come up to Hvar. Lots of other islands to see. I'm really looking forward to this journey.
The Fortica is the city fortress and medieval castle high above Hvar town, which occupies the site of an ancient settlement dating back before 500 BC. It was the Venetians who began construction of the present fortress in 1278. Back at sea level, a walk along the recently modernised waterfront underlines why this is a popular destination for the rich and famous. The area to the left is dominated by coffee and cocktail bars and classy restaurants. Further along is the older part of the waterfront, with the smaller boats of the residents of Hvar and the old Franciscan monastery and town beach. There is a live webcam on YouTube of this area, well worth watching. The link is on the screen. Anyway, it's back to the island hopping and back on the boat. We're heading for the Pakleni Islands, and we're about to collect a few passengers who are heading back to the island of Brac and to the town of Bol. These people have been on the small hidden beaches and deserted lagoons associated with a small group of small islands, sometimes known as Ellis Islands. A very early start from Bol the following morning sees me on the ferry back to the mainland and town of Split. From here it's by bus through the town for the 30 minutes journey to the next island and town of Trogir. I alighted at the bus station in Trogir, which is on the mainland, and it faces onto the island across a very narrow channel. The way onto the island is by a short walk across the road bridge. Trogir is located in the centre of Dalmatia. Its port is preferred by seafarers because of its favourable location and natural protection. It is often named the Museum City because it is full of historical monuments such as the old city centre, Camerlengo Fortress, the Tower of St Mark, various sculptures, Chapel of St Geronimo, Sipico Palace, Renaissance Church of St John the Baptist, the Portal of Radovan, and museums and wine cellars. As the sign says, the Great Sipico Palace is an ensemble of Romanesque buildings which were remodelled for the first time in early Renaissance, circa 1457. After that time, a courtyard with galleries was added, and buildings north of the main entrance were incorporated into the palace. The Cathedral of San Lorenzo, prominent 1200s cathedral with Romanesque Gothic architecture and a bell tower visitors can climb. Also on the flight path for arrivals at Split Airport, it is known as Trogir Cathedral, a Roman Catholic triple-naved basilica. And this is the portal, which is the work of Master Radovan himself. The historic centre of the town of Trogir, due to the importance of its cultural and historical heritage, was extended into the list of the World Cultural Heritage, known as UNESCO, on the 6th of December 1997. Island hopping is easy round here. You just take a walk across the next road bridge and that takes you to the next island.
Well, today I made it to Trogir in Croatia. It's just a small island, 30 minutes away from Split by bus. Just here for the day, and it looks pretty so far.
This busker obviously isn't shy, belting out his songs with obvious enthusiasm, but lacking sadly on musical ability. I'll give him his dues though, he's still a lot better than me. The Carmelango fortress was erected soon after 1420, when Trogir became part of the Republic of Venice in order to protect the sea channel and the port. The fortress is a result of an addition to the original Tower of Chains, which was built in 1380 and surrounded by a moat with a drawbridge to the entrance. Trogir is certainly historic and very quaint, with all the facilities you need as a tourist. It doesn't take that long to stroll around and see everything, so it's an ideal place for a one-day visit.